Have you ever had that sinking moment when you realize most people aren't really thinking about you at all? Not your struggles, not your dreams, not the quiet battles you fight alone. The world moves on, caught up in its own noise, and yet we spend so much of our lives bending ourselves to fit into other people's fleeting opinions. It's a strange paradox. We long for approval, yet the applause fades almost as soon as it's given. We fear criticism, yet those words are usually forgotten by the ones who spoke them. What remains is not their judgment, it's the weight we chose to carry. The Stoics saw this clearly. They knew the danger of letting your worth be auctioned off to the crowd. Because when you live for the eyes and ears of others, you're never truly living for yourself. And the truth, quiet, unglamorous but freeing, is that nobody cares as much as you think, which means you are free to decide who you'll be. In this journey, we won't chase grand promises or quick fixes. We'll walk through ideas that challenge the reflex to seek validation and instead turn inward toward something steadier. So take a breath. Set down for a moment the weight of what others may think. Stay with me and let's see where this path, your path, can really lead. 1. Break free from approval's trap. Have you ever felt that restless pull, the subtle pressure to check your phone again, just to see if someone out there has approved of you? It's a quiet hunger, but it grows quickly, fed by every like, every comment, every fleeting nod from the crowd. We live in an age where applause is measured in numbers, and where a stranger's tap on a screen can seem to decide our mood for the day. But deep down, have you ever stopped to ask, is my worth really this fragile? Is it just a reflection of other people's passing attention? The Stoics would shake their heads. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the opinions of others are as transient as smoke, and Epictetus warned that placing our happiness in another's hands is to give away the one thing we can truly own, our mind. For them, the good life was built on an inner fortress, a citadel of virtue that no critic could breach and no praise could inflate. I once knew a young man, Daniel, who loved to share his art online. At first, it was joy. He painted because it filled him with life. But over time, he noticed his hand hesitating over the canvas, wondering what would get more likes, what style would perform better. His work grew safer, less alive. And when one post failed to draw attention, he felt not just disappointment, but a gnawing sense of failure, as if his worth had been diminished. It wasn't the world that had truly changed. It was the weight he had given its voice. Daniel had built his house on sand, and the tide came in every day. The Stoic answer is not to reject people's opinions outright, but to place them in their proper place. Applause may come, criticism will follow, but neither should command your peace. Seneca wrote that the wise person is content with themselves, for their measure of success is not how the world reacts, but whether their actions align with their principles. This is the shift. To move from chasing approval to embodying values. It doesn't mean closing yourself off or becoming indifferent to the world. It means grounding yourself so deeply in what is right and good that no gust of opinion can knock you off course. Think about the cycle we fall into. You share a thought, a photo, a project, and then comes the itch, the urge to check for reactions. Each notification is a small spark, a momentary high, but like any spark, it fades fast, leaving you scanning the horizon for the next one, and the next, until your focus drifts from the joy of creation to the chase for recognition. The Stoics saw this pattern long before social media existed. The arena was different, but the trap was the same. When you tie your happiness to external applause, you will forever be performing, never simply living. The antidote begins with a quiet act of rebellion, seeking your own approval first. Imagine making choices not to impress, but to stay true to yourself. Picture a life where a stranger's disapproving glance in a cafe or a cutting comment online slides off you like rain on stone. This is not coldness, it is freedom. You are no longer bargaining with your peace. You are no longer holding it hostage to the shifting tastes of the crowd. There is a story from Roman history of a Stoic senator who, after giving an unpopular speech, was mocked openly in the forum. His response: he walked home in silence, unhurried, as if the words thrown at him were leaves in the wind. When asked later if the insults had wounded him, he said, "I did not give them permission. That is the heart of it. We choose what enters the fortress of our mind. If we do not grant entry, it has no power there." This is not an easy transformation. The craving for validation is deeply human, and it will whisper to you often. But each time you choose to act according to your own reasoned judgment rather than the anticipated reaction of others, you are laying another stone in that inner citadel. Over time, it grows strong enough to withstand any storm, and from that place, your actions become purer, your choices clearer, not reactive to the noise outside, but proactive in fulfilling your own definition of a good life. So the question becomes, will you keep feeding the hunger for approval, knowing it can never be satisfied? Or will you turn inward to the well that does not run dry? Remember, nobody can give you lasting peace but you. And once you realize that, you no longer have to chase it through the crowd. You carry it with you, wherever you go. From here, we move to another subtle but powerful trap, one that often hides behind the guise of care and connection, but can just as easily rob us of our independence. To self-worth from within. Have you ever had a moment when, despite all the compliments and recognition, you still felt a quiet emptiness inside? It's a strange feeling, having the world nod its approval, yet sensing that your value is still unsettled, as if it could vanish with the next wave of opinions. Stoicism offers a radical antidote to that instability. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all pointed toward the same truth. Your worth is not a currency others can grant or revoke. It is something you carry within you, woven into your virtues and the choices you make in harmony with them. For the Stoic, the foundation of self-worth is not built on applause, likes, or even well-meaning praise. These things are not inherently bad. They simply don't belong at the core of your identity. To place them there is like anchoring your home on shifting sand. You will always be at the mercy of the tide. The Stoic instead asks, am I making decisions I can respect tomorrow? Am I living truthfully even when no one is watching? Am I acting with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance? If the answer is yes, then your worth stands firm, no matter how the crowd reacts. I once spoke with a woman named Clara who had spent years chasing recognition in her career. She would go home at night and replay the praise she'd received during the day, using it as fuel to keep going. But on days when the praise didn't come, her energy collapsed. She realized she had become dependent, hooked on the approval of others like a drug. At the urging of a mentor, she began a simple Stoic practice. Each night, she would write down not her achievements, but the moments she had acted in line with her values. At first, the list was short, but over weeks and months, she noticed something changing. Her satisfaction began to come from those quiet entries in her journal, not from external applause. Even when no one else noticed, she felt grounded because she knew she had lived with integrity. This is why the Stoics practiced daily reflection, not to tally victories or scold themselves for failures, but to measure their actions against their principles. Seneca wrote, "Every night I examine my entire day, reviewing my deeds and words." It's not a performance review for the world, it's a conversation with your own conscience. Over time, this practice builds an unshakable form of self-respect, one that does not tremble in the winds of opinion. Reframing self-worth in this way doesn't mean closing your ears to the world. Feedback, both praise and criticism, still has its place. But in a Stoic mindset, it is information, not a verdict on your value. If someone criticizes you, you can ask, "Is there truth here that can help me live more virtuously?" If someone praises you, you can appreciate it without becoming dependent on it. You remain the steward of your worth, using external voices as tools for growth rather than as the pillars that hold you up. The beauty of this inner anchoring is its stability. When you define yourself by your own alignment with virtue, you cannot be toppled by gossip, indifference, or even open hostility. You are free to live a life that reflects who you truly are, not the version that is most likely to please the crowd. And that freedom is powerful. It allows you to take risks, to stand for what you believe, and to walk away from situations that betray your values without feeling diminished. Clara's story didn't end with her abandoning the world or rejecting all recognition. She still worked hard, still received praise, but it no longer dictated her sense of self. On days when her efforts went unnoticed, she still went to bed content because she had lived her values. And on days when she was celebrated, she could enjoy it without fearing its loss. This is the promise of Stoic self-worth, a life where your value is constant, not contingent. A life where you can meet the gaze of the world without flinching because you know who you are and what you stand for. And once you've built that foundation, you're ready to face the next challenge, how to protect it from the subtle forces that try to erode it from within. 3. The quiet power of courage. Have you ever noticed how the hardest battles you fight are often invisible to everyone else? They aren't the dramatic moments of standing before a crowd or charging into danger. They're the quiet moments when you have to choose between what's comfortable and what's right. Stoicism calls this inner courage, and it's far more than bravery in the face of physical risk. It's the strength to live in alignment with your principles, even when the world tempts you to abandon them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." But what he didn't have to explain is how hard that can be when you feel the weight of disapproval pressing in on you. True Stoic courage begins with the willingness to turn inward and face yourself without flinching. It's about asking, why am I doing this? Is it born from conviction or from a fear of being disliked? Imagine a young teacher who sees a colleague taking credit for someone else's work. Speaking up will be uncomfortable, it might even cause trouble, but staying silent will erode her integrity. The real battle isn't just in confronting the wrongdoing, it's in overcoming her own doubt, the whisper that says, "Stay quiet, it's safer." When she chooses to speak, she is practicing Stoic courage, not because it's easy, but because it's aligned with virtue. Epictetus taught that we should not seek to control what lies outside our power, but rather master what is within. Courage is born from that truth. You cannot control the reactions, the judgments, or the outcomes, but you can control your own reasoning, your decisions, your willingness to act with integrity. This is why Stoic courage feels liberating. It frees you from the exhausting game of trying to manage every possible opinion or outcome. And courage isn't rigid. It's also the strength to admit when you're wrong, to change your mind when better reasoning presents itself. That's a form of bravery too, letting go of beliefs you've held for years because you've discovered they no longer stand on solid ground. Seneca said, "A man who follows reason in all things will have both tranquility and courage." That kind of courage doesn't shout. It listens, learns, and adjusts course without shame. I once heard the story of a craftsman named Elias, known in his village for never compromising on the quality of his work. One year, when resources were scarce, he was offered a lucrative contract if he agreed to cut corners. He wrestled with the decision in silence for days. Accepting would mean security for his family. Refusing would mean hardship. In the end, he turned the offer down. When asked why, he simply said, "I'd rather face a lean winter than look at my work and know it isn't honest." That is Stoic courage, not the absence of fear, but the choice to stand with your values despite it. When you cultivate this inner strength, every challenge becomes an arena to practice it. A harsh critique is no longer a wound, it's a chance to refine your understanding. A setback isn't a wall, it's a test of your resilience. Even fear itself becomes a signal, pointing you toward what matters most. This is the quiet but powerful transformation Stoicism offers. Life stops being a series of obstacles to endure and starts becoming a series of opportunities to embody your highest self. If these words strike a chord, let that be your reminder. Your courage is yours to grow. Drop a simple courage in the comments as your quiet pledge to keep choosing the harder, better path. And if you want to walk this journey alongside others seeking the same strength, subscribe so we can continue building this inner fortress together, because from here we'll move towards something just as essential as courage, the discipline to stay steady when life tries to pull you in 100 directions at once. 4. Vulnerability as strength. When was the last time you allowed someone to see the parts of you that weren't polished, rehearsed, or strong? For most of us, the instinct is to protect those places, to wrap them in layers of silence or disguise, fearing that exposure might be seen as weakness. Yet, in the eyes of Stoicism, vulnerability is not a flaw to be concealed. It is a profound form of strength. The Stoics did not imagine strength as a stone wall against the world, but as the ability to stand with your full humanity in the open, neither collapsing under its weight nor pretending it isn't there. Vulnerability in the Stoic sense begins with recognition that we are all touched by fear, uncertainty, and limitation. Marcus Aurelius admitted in his meditations to moments of weariness and doubt, but he met them with the same rational clarity he brought to every decision. The point was never to deny the reality of human emotions, but to see them clearly and decide deliberately how to respond. This is why Stoic vulnerability is courageous. It means acknowledging your inner storms instead of hiding them behind a mask of false composure. Consider a man named Adrian who had built his reputation on being reliable, unshakable. People came to him for solutions, for steadiness, and he rarely let them see the toll it took. But when his business failed after years of effort, he faced a choice: retreat into isolation and protect the image of competence, or admit openly to his friends and family that he was struggling. He chose the latter, not to ask for pity, but to face the truth without flinching, and to allow others the opportunity to understand and stand with him. That act, though quiet, was more difficult than any public triumph he'd experienced. In speaking honestly, he disarmed the silent power of his fear. The Stoics knew that hiding from vulnerability is like trying to walk while looking away from the ground. You eventually stumble over what you refuse to see. By bringing your weaknesses into the light, you turn them from shadowy forces that pull your strings into challenges you can engage with rationally. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." Vulnerability is the friction, the admission that you are still shaping yourself, still subject to trials that test and refine your character. There is another dimension to this: connection. We often think of Stoicism as solitary, a lone figure unmoved by the noise of the crowd. But in truth, Stoicism values community, honest, virtuous relationships built on mutual respect. When you allow yourself to be seen fully, imperfections and all, you create an opening for others to do the same. In this way, vulnerability is not just a personal exercise, it is an offering. It invites authenticity from those around you, deepening bonds that cannot be formed on the surface alone. Picture a leader who admits to their team that they made the wrong call, explaining the reasoning that led there and what they've learned. Such a moment doesn't erode trust, it strengthens it, because it replaces the illusion of infallibility with the truth of integrity. The Stoics understood that a life lived according to virtue cannot be built on appearances. It must rest on the sturdier ground of truth, even when truth exposes us. This acceptance of vulnerability also sharpens one of Stoicism's central disciplines, focusing only on what you can control. Your emotions will come. Others' opinions will shift like wind. Misfortunes will appear without warning. You cannot hold these things still by sheer will, but you can decide how you meet them. By embracing vulnerability, you practice meeting each uncertainty without panic, accepting that control was never about domination over life's events, but mastery over your own reactions. Adrian, in the months after his business failed, learned to focus on what was his to command, his effort, his honesty, his discipline, rather than the outcome he could no longer change. His openness allowed others to step forward with opportunities and advice he would never have received if he had hidden his struggle. And in that process, his sense of self became less tied to winning or losing, and more anchored in living well through either. To live this way is to inhabit a quieter, deeper kind of strength, one that does not shout over its fears, but listens to them, understands their message, and chooses the path forward with steady resolve. Vulnerability becomes a proving ground for virtue, courage in admitting the truth, wisdom in responding to it, justice in allowing others the same space, and temperance in balancing emotion with reason. In the end, embracing vulnerability is an act of alignment. It is the decision to meet yourself exactly where you are, without disguise, and still commit to living with integrity. It's the recognition that the cracks in our armor are not signs of weakness. They are the places where we've been tested and where light can enter. And from that light, we turn toward the next lesson Stoicism offers: how to transform these open, honest encounters with ourselves into deliberate action that shapes the course of our lives. 5. Resilience through Stoic eyes. What does it really mean to be resilient? Most of us picture someone who can bounce back after being knocked down, someone who returns to their feet and carries on. But through the eyes of Stoicism, resilience is not just recovery, it's transformation. It's the art of meeting life's blows without losing your shape, and even allowing those blows to refine you. The Stoics didn't prepare for hardships simply so they could endure them. They trained themselves to see those hardships as an essential part of life's work, a testing ground for their character. At the heart of this resilience lies the Stoic principle of the dichotomy of control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's simple to read, but profound to live. The Stoics drew a sharp line between what is theirs to command, their thoughts, actions, and judgments, and what lies forever outside their grasp, like the choices of others, the turns of fortune, or the sudden arrival of loss. This wasn't an excuse to withdraw or surrender. It was an act of focus. By channeling their energy only into what could be shaped by their own hands, they kept their minds sharp and their spirits steady. I once heard of a merchant in ancient Rome named Lucius, whose ships carried goods across a treacherous sea. One season, storms destroyed nearly all his fleet. The loss was crushing, yet Lucius did not rage against the waves or curse the gods. That night, he sat down with his ledger, tallying not only his remaining resources, but his own conduct in the face of disaster. Could he have steered differently, managed his affairs more wisely? The next morning, he began again with what he had left. His fortune had been halved, but his composure remained whole, and in that he counted himself rich. This deliberate reflection was no accident. The Stoics practiced it daily, often in the quiet of the evening. They called it their meditation, a review of the day, not to dwell on what had gone wrong in the world, but to examine how they had met it. Did they act with courage, or did fear dictate their choices? Did they hold to justice, or let expedience sway them? In this way, every setback became a teacher, every difficulty a forge. Instead of letting hardship corrode their resolve, they used it to temper their character, preparing themselves for the next trial before it even arrived. Perception, too, was a crucial part of this resilience. Epictetus taught that people are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. The Stoics knew that a challenge can either crush you or strengthen you, and the difference lies in how you choose to see it. A mountain blocking your path can be an impassable wall, or it can be the training ground that makes you stronger for the road beyond. This shift in perception doesn't deny the weight of the mountain. It simply redefines your relationship to it. To cultivate this perspective, they practice the premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Each day they would imagine possible misfortunes, illness, loss, betrayal, sudden change. Far from pessimism, this was a kind of mental armor. By confronting these possibilities before they arrived, they robbed them of their power to shock. When a blow came, it was not an intruder, but a known guest, still unwelcome, but less frightening. Another pillar of Stoic resilience was amor fati, the love of fate. It was not enough to accept life's events. The Stoics sought to embrace them, to see in every twist and turn the raw material for virtue. If fortune was kind, they used it to practice gratitude and generosity. If fortune was harsh, they used it to practice endurance and clarity. In both, they found purpose. Seneca captured it when he said, "A good character, when tested, shines even more." In modern terms, this doesn't mean smiling through pain or pretending all is well. It means meeting reality as it is and asking, how can I meet this well? It means refusing to let circumstances, good or bad, dictate whether you live according to your values. A resilient Stoic doesn't crumble when the world shifts under their feet, because their foundation is not laid in the shifting soil of external approval or outcomes. It's rooted deep in the bedrock of their own principles. Lucius, the merchant, rebuilt slowly. It took years for his trade to flourish again. Yet when another storm claimed a single vessel, he did not grieve as before. He simply adjusted his plans, thanked the crew for their safe return, and moved forward. His wealth was in his capacity to act, to adapt, to keep his dignity intact, regardless of the day's tally. Resilience in the Stoic sense is not a shield that keeps you untouched. It's a muscle that grows stronger each time life tests it. Every hardship faced with reason instead of panic, with integrity instead of compromise, adds to your strength. Over time, you become less like a fragile branch that snaps in the wind and more like a rooted oak that bends but does not break. And once that strength is part of you, it changes how you meet everything else, including the subtle tests that don't come as storms, but as temptations to drift away from the life you've chosen to live. That is where the next part of our journey leads. 6. Stay true to your path. There comes a point in life when you realize how easy it is to drift, pulled by expectations, nudged by approval, swayed by fear of disapproval, until one day you look at your choices and wonder whose life you are really living. The Stoics understood this danger well. To them, the practice of focusing on one's own path was not a selfish retreat from the world, but the foundation of a life lived with integrity. And it was not about self-sufficiency in the material sense, but in the emotional and intellectual sense, the cultivation of an inner ground that cannot be shaken by the shifting tides of external events. This is not an argument for cold detachment or indifference. On the contrary, the Stoics sought a warmth that came from within, a happiness that did not depend on the unstable approval of others. Marcus Aurelius, bearing the crushing weight of an empire on his shoulders, still returned again and again to the same reminder: you have power over your mind, not outside events. He did not isolate himself from duty or people. He simply rooted his peace in a source that no political upheaval, no court intrigue, no personal betrayal could touch. His reflections challenge us to ask, are we making our decisions because they are right and good, or because we fear judgment or crave applause? To walk your own path means to see obstacles not as signs you've gone astray, but as part of the path itself. The obstacle is the way, the Stoics taught, not in some abstract sense, but in the practical reality that each difficulty demands the exercise of virtue. A detour tests your courage, a delay teaches your patience, an unfair criticism gives you the chance to practice justice toward someone who has not shown it to you. When you live this way, life is no longer measured by the smoothness of the road, but by the depth of the traveler who walks it. I think of a craftsman named Leander who spent decades perfecting his skill. His work was slow, his methods outdated by modern standards. But his pieces were sought after because they carried something rare, the unmistakable touch of someone who refused to cut corners. One year, a rival began producing imitations, cheaper, faster, and for a while, more popular. Friends urged Leander to adjust, to speed up, to protect his business, but he refused. "My work is my path," he said simply. "If I abandon it to chase another's, I lose more than my craft." It was not stubbornness, it was clarity. And in time, the rival's work was forgotten, while Leander's pieces became heirlooms. Focusing on your own path also demands a deep sense of personal responsibility. Stoicism teaches that while you cannot control what happens to you, you hold absolute control over how you respond. This truth can be liberating, but it is also daunting. It leaves no room for blaming others, no refuge in the comfort of excuses. If something in your life is not as it should be, the Stoic approach is to look inward first. What can I do differently? How can I bring my actions into closer alignment with my principles? This is not about self-blame. It is about reclaiming the authority over your own life. That kind of authority is not won once and kept forever. It must be maintained through vigilance. The allure of the crowd is subtle. It can dress itself as opportunity, as safety, even as love. There will always be moments when following the path laid out by others seems easier, less lonely. The Stoic safeguard against this is daily reflection, reviewing one's actions not with the harshness of a judge, but with the honesty of a friend who wants you to stay true to yourself. Marcus Aurelius would write each night, not to impress anyone, but to hold himself accountable to the life he had chosen to live. Authenticity in the Stoic sense is not a marketing slogan or a curated image. It is the quiet alignment between who you are, what you value, and how you act. It is crafting a life shaped by your own reasoned choices rather than molded by external pressures. And it is harder than it sounds, because it asks you to step away from the applause and toward the silence where you must decide for yourself. This focus on one's own path does not mean living in isolation. It is not a call to ignore the needs of others or to sever bonds. Rather, it means that your contributions, your relationships, and your service to the world flow from a place of integrity. You give not because you fear being thought selfish, but because generosity is part of your nature. You speak the truth, not because you seek to provoke, but because honesty is your compass. You walk away from what is wrong, not because you want to appear strong, but because your principles leave you no other choice. It is also a safeguard against the slow erosion of self that happens when you let every passing opinion sway you. In a culture that constantly tells you who you should be, what you should want, and how you should feel, holding your own path is an act of quiet rebellion. It is the decision to measure your worth by your virtues, not your visibility, by your consistency, not your conformity. Leander's story, like Marcus's example, reminds us that living this way is not about avoiding hardship. It is about meeting it with the full weight of your own convictions. And in time, something remarkable happens. The path that once felt narrow and uncertain begins to feel like home. You may still face storms, but you know the ground beneath your feet. You may still walk alone at times, but you carry the company of your own integrity. In the end, focusing on your own path is not a retreat from life. It is the most engaged way to live it. It is saying, I will meet the world as it is, without surrendering who I am. I will face obstacles as teachers, not enemies. I will bear the consequences of my choices because they are truly mine. And I will walk forward, not molded by the shifting hands of approval or fear, but shaped by the steady tools of reason, virtue, and authenticity. This is the work of a lifetime, and it is the work that makes a life worth living. As you continue walking your path, let the wisdom of Stoicism be the light that guides each step. Choose not what is merely easy, but what is right, both for yourself and for the greater good. When you focus on your own way with integrity and courage, you not only build a life of fulfillment, but also inspire a world where virtue leads the way. If these words speak to you, take a quiet moment to subscribe so we can keep walking this journey together. Share your thoughts in the comments with the simple phrase, focus strong. Your path is yours alone, but you never walk it without purpose. In the next video, we will take another step toward living with strength and clarity.